Hello, public speaking class. My name is Chad Westfall. I'm 28 years old and I currently reside in Clarksville, Tennessee with my wife, Stacy, and our 4 children, Danielle, Chloe, Abigail, and Titus, and number 5 on the way, Phoebe. A little bit about myself. I grew up in a very small town in West Virginia called Gandyville. I don't even think it's on a map. If it is, it shouldn't be. It's so tiny. From there, I grew up. When I turned 18, I joined the Army. And from there, I went to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, where I met my wife, Stacy, in 2007. Deployed shortly after we were married, and I spent 15 months in Iraq. Shortly after returning from Iraq, by God's providence, both me and my wife being unbelievers, God took us away from the comforts of Clarksville, Tennessee, the comforts of family and friends, and put us in Fort Polk, Louisiana, where we had absolutely nothing. And while there, God saved both my wife and I. My wife 2 years before me, and then me in 2012. Shortly after God saved me, I had kind of a crisis of what do I do now? I'm a new believer. I'm in a place where there's no real good churches. The only Southern Baptist church there was very seeker sensitive, to say the least. They really only cared about numbers. They didn't care about discipleship or missions or even the Word of God at its very basic level. They were very much about programs and stuff like that. So I began to kind of be concerned about the state of the church. So what I did was I started praying and asking some of the few men that I knew who were godly, what should I do? I see a need and I desire to help. How can I help? And that's when I was kind of pointed in the direction of ministry. And I heard about Boyce College to a friend who listened to Al Mohler's podcast every day. So I decided, I'll put my application in and see what happens. I wasn't a very smart kid in school. I didn't like school. I didn't like reading. I think my whole childhood I read maybe 3 books. And most of them were like big pictures, big words, and very few actual pages. So I wasn't really an academic kind of guy. But anyway, so I put in my application, and by God's providence, again, I am accepted to the school. So I'm kind of thinking about that, and then I injured my back. Turns out that I had a pre-existing condition in my spine that causes my actual the cartilage and bone in my spine to deteriorate over time. So I was unable to continue to serve in the military in the capacity I was in. I would have had to have reclassed. And so I kind of took that as an option of, I can either stay in and reclass or I can go to school. And I decided to go to school. I decided this is where the Lord would have me to go. So I got out, moved to Louisville, Kentucky with my wife and 2 children at the time, Danielle and Chloe. Shortly after getting there, the house that we had owned in Clarksville, Tennessee, became a problem for us financially. We couldn't really pay the bills here in Clarksville and then still live in Louisville. And then to top it all off, we found out that we were pregnant with number 3, Abigail. So in the May of 2013, we decided to move to Clarksville, Tennessee again. When we got here, we searched for a church for a few weeks, and then we finally found Covenant Baptist Church, which is a fresh church plant. I'd only been here for a few years. The church hadn't even constituted yet. It was still considered a church plant from the church that planted it in Hartsville, Tennessee, which is about 3 hours east of here, I believe. So we started going and attending, and the pastor began to disciple me in ways that I had never even dreamed that a pastor would disciple. And I continued to go to school. I am now in my last year at Boyce, and I have since then even had another child, Titus, who's now almost 2 years old, and we're about to have our 5th child, Phoebe, in May. So God has been so gracious. He took a small, simple boy from a very small, simple town, and He saved me, drew me into Himself, has taught me what the church is, what His Word is, and He has given me a passion to go back even into West Virginia after I graduate, to plant a church and to teach those who don't have sound churches what God says in His Word and how we are to interact with each other and love each other. And so that's a little bit about me. I look forward to listening to your guys' videos, watching them, and getting to know you guys a little bit as we go through this class. And I'm eager to learn how to be better at this public speaking thing. May God bless our time together, and may the Lord bless each one of you.